He's a tall guy. He was in there. He never made really any physical contact.
Well, there was no clear box out, so
Right.
he didn't have anybody to go over the back of. I'm going to go and cite and quote the great Bob Huggins here. 3 blind mice were out there.
You won't be fined, though. You don't have to worry about being fined.
Okay, good. But, and I look, okay, I know we have had battles, and I'm to a point where I think they should just grab instant replay and completely get rid of it. Mm-hmm. But a play like that, if you're going to have instant replay,
True.
It should be there to correct that kind of mistake. And so if
they don't have a challenge system, but they should look at a play like that and say it's big enough that we should look at it.
Absolutely. In the waning moments of a game, when you have such an egregious missed call, that should be something that should be reviewed. And if you can't correct those mistakes, in my opinion, there's no point in having instant replay.
It's a great point. I agree 100% because that changed the game. Now, Pitt contributed to their own woes by blowing that lead that we showed you, by missing a lot of shots down the stretch, and they could have put it, but that play was significant in overtime. All right, let's go out to the lines at 412-575-2600. We got Don in Mount Washington. What's up, Don?
Hey, Bob. Hi, Andrew. How you doing?
Hey.
Good.
Just good to see Crosby back, and I can tell you right now that Malcolm, he is something about it, that him and Russ, they can score, and it seems like Malcolm has eyes in the back of his head because he always knows when Russ is around. And Jari, he is the number one goalie of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He's a very good goalie.
For now, yes, and things change rapidly in sports, and we can see things, who would have thought that he'd come in and be this good because he was actually on the trade block at some point during the preseason. Anyway, thanks, Don, for the call. I will say this about the Penguins. It leads to a little bit of a conundrum because I think everyone believes that Jim Rutherford's going to make a trade here. At some point, Gensel's out, you need someone, and I still believe they will and should because they need someone to pull the trigger on the top line. But they have 4 solid lines. The line with Teddy Bluger is unbelievable with Tanev and Aston Reese. But if Galchenyuk, who scored late tonight, gets hot on a third line, do they need to still make a trade, in your opinion, to have 4-line balance and scoring on each line? Because I think they don't necessarily need to. I still would want to.
I want one more scorer, proven goal scorer, to go into the postseason with. And Alex Galchenyuk, Bob, because, let's face it, he was terrible for the first half of the season. He doesn't have a postseason resume having played in Montreal and Arizona. I want somebody, he's not going to fill the skates of Jake Gensel, but I want one more player who I think in crucial situations at even strength can score a goal for me. Galchenyuk, that great one-timer he scored, the vast majority of the points and goals in his career have come with an extra man. And so I want somebody at 5-on-5 who I think in a big spot can score a goal for me. And those guys are very hard to come by, but you got to give something up to get something good. And
what would you give?
Well, this is you said conundrum. Great word, by the way. Here's the situation. Pierre McGuire told me this week he thinks this has the chance to be the best NHL draft ever.
Okay.
Ever. So he thinks that gives a GM pause when it comes to parting with the first-round pick. Now, he knows amateur players. He can tell you where guys came from.
Oh, he knows where they're from. Exactly.
What they like.
The whole family tree.
I mean, it's unbelievable. So I'm going to take his word for it. However, when you are this close and you have this kind of team, I think, and Rutherford's done this, I think you owe it to your team and you owe it to yourself to trade the first-round pick.
And Crosby and Malkin now know, too. They're at the second part of their career, the back 9 of their careers, and they want to win. And so if you have a chance to win, you sacrifice some of the future. All right, let's go to Jim and Shaler, who joins us right now on the hotline. Hello, Jim.
Hey, guys. How you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Hey, I don't know if you heard the news tonight, but I'm just tired of Bob Nutton saying that he can't afford anybody at the Pirates. I mean, Minnesota's considered a small market team. Donaldson just signed like a $100 million contract, 4 years. They're trying to win. I just see the same stuff over and over with a different management team. They do have some talent on this team, the Pirates. You figure if they want to do something, they want to got at least another pitcher or two. They ain't doing anything. Still doing the same old, signing players to minor league deals. It's just getting kind of old. They have a young team on the field right now. What are they going to do? They're going to trade them all and get rid of them all, or what's the deal?
Well, thanks, Jim. That's a good question because I agree. You?
Well, the Donaldson deal, I think, is a spectacular move by Minnesota. Now, they hit more home runs than anybody in baseball history last year, and then they go out and get a legitimate cleanup hitter. I applaud them for that.
And they spend the money. They spend the money.
They won 100 games. They've got a newer ballpark. They've invested back into the team. They kept Joe Mauer, even though that contract probably blew up in their face a little bit. The only glass half full opinion I can give you on the Pirates right now is that Ben Cherington doesn't want to be rash. He doesn't want to do something too quickly. He wants to come in, take a look at the players that he has, watch them start in April and May, and then go from there. But that's the best I can do. And I don't think that's the most persuasive argument.
Vegas has an over and under right now on Pirate wins total at
70.
70.
Only the
listen,
Marlins are worse in the NL.
And I think they need pitching help, a lot of it. Now, can some of it come from within? Yes, potentially. But without Tyone, they're at a disadvantage. They need Archer to be what he was in Tampa at his years of best baseball. Who knows what you're going to get with that? And what do you have to use as trade bait to acquire anything? You don't. If anything, they're going to trade players to get and stock up their minor leagues, which I have no problem with, by the way, Andrew. I don't. But I think at some point they have to be transparent about it. If you say that you want to be competitive right now, then you have to show it to some degree. And if you're not, you can still try, but you also have to tell people what's going on.
They have a very incomplete roster that we've seen in baseball, and it doesn't happen as much maybe in the NFL. There are teams that go worst to first, but I don't see any semblance of a team that can do that. The pitching isn't there. The Vasquez thing kills them in terms of flipping
really
him for prospects. They could have traded him for a lot before that horrible situation. Bell, the second half of last year, I think, would weigh on a team that's trying to trade for him. I mean, it's one thing to rebuild, but they're just being so lazy is the wrong word, but they're just not. There's no activity.
No.
There's nothing. There's just a couple of minor deals, and that's it.
Their catching situation is not good. I mean, they brought in guys who are light hitters. They don't have much power in that lineup to begin with.
Nope.
And I'm not sure about Gregory Polanco and Wright. That's
neither.
a big area of concern. If he does not come back to what you expect him to be, you got some real issues there. We got to go to a break. We'll take it. We have more calls on the way. You're watching the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call right here live, 7 nights a week on Pittsburgh CW.